بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب اللهم آمين. All praise is due to Allah, the Creator, Cherisher, and Sustainer of the universe. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his last and final messenger. May the peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon him, his companions, and those who follow his path until the day of judgment. Allahumma ameen. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to say, first of all, Jazakumullah khairan, thank you all very much for taking time from your schedules to come, bringing your families and children to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to this center, as we join together to learn together. We continue our series on striving for excellence and ihsan, guidance, Quranic guidance towards righteousness. And in our series, just as a reminder for those who are joining us for the first time, and for those who are continuing the series, we are taking short verses from the last part, Juz Amma, that we memorize and recite frequently, but may not glean some of the meanings, some of the important meanings and the valuable lessons for our day-to-day life. Today, inshallah, we're going to do something a little bit differently. We're not going to focus so much on the meaning, the specific meaning of the verses, but how they relate to an important historical event that we will be commemorating in the next few days. So in Sura Al-Layl, the night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. The most righteous will be spared from it. And it is in reference to the few verses before where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the not so righteous who will have to suffer the torment of hellfire. So an exception to that, an exception to suffering the torment of the hellfire will be the most righteous. Not al-muttaqi, but al-atqa, the most righteous. So this is the one who is in continuous state of taqwa. And many of the mufassirin said that these verses were in relation to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him, who was the most righteous and the closest companion of our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we will see how that relationship evolved and developed and how it became very important. So how was he al-atqa, the most righteous? الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ولسوف يرضى. So what does he do? He gives, he spends his wealth only to purify himself. That's his only purpose. He's not seeking anything in return. وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ. He's not doing it because he's returning a favor, because he owes someone anything. So he's not spending because he's paying someone back. No, he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, the purity of his heart, to purify and elevate himself, and seeking the pleasure of his Lord the Most High, and he will certainly be pleased. Allah is promising him pleasure both in this life and in the hereafter. So the historical context, as we said, this was revealed in relation to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and Allah be pleased with him. So how is he spending? The Mufassirin and the historians say that he freed nearly 20 slaves. And this was no easy task. This was not a cheap matter for a man like Abu Bakr to do. He was a wealthy man. But he bought and freed nearly 20 slaves. I mean, the one that we know about, the most famous one, is Bilal, right? Because of the famous film, you know, The Message, Al-Risala, and we saw it, and Bilal radiallahu anhu says, Ahadun, Ahad, Ahadun, Ahad. But Bilal radiallahu anhu said that, Ahadun, Ahad. But there were many others that he freed. It was not just Bilal. So we need to learn our history and the seerah of Muhammad ﷺ and his companions, there was a famous story that many of us know where Umar radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ, called upon the companions to donate, to give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Umar, a very close friend of Abu Bakr, wants to compete with him. So he says, I'm going to outdo him. He always beats me. I'm going to outdo him this time. So he goes to his family and he says, bring everything that you own, everything, all the jewelry, all the money, all the cash, all the savings, everything that you have. And he splits everything in half. You have 2 pairs of earrings, you keep one, I take one. You have this much jewelry, half of it here, half of it there. This much cash, this much gold, whatever. Half and half. And he takes half of it to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, what did you leave for your family? He said, I left an equivalent amount. So basically I gave half. And the Prophet ﷺ said, may Allah bless for you what you have given and what you have kept. And Allah is sitting there waiting. In his mind, I beat you, Allah. You have nothing on me. I beat you, Abu Bakr. You have nothing on me. And then Abu Bakr Siddiq comes in and he puts his pile in front of the Prophet ﷺ. This is وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. This is the arena of competition. Not who has the biggest car, not who has the nicest suit, not who has the biggest, fanciest home. This is the arena of competition. All of these other things are going away. Like the Prophet ﷺ, he invited guests one day. I'll get back to the story of Abu Bakr, don't worry. He invited guests one day, and they prepared a sheep, a small lamb. And when they left, Aisha radiallahu anha said to the Prophet ﷺ, she said, everything is gone except for the shoulder of the lamb. They ate everything except for the shoulder. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no, Ya Aisha, everything was saved except for the shoulder. Everything is saved with Allah except for the shoulder. We're going to consume the shoulder, so it's done. We took our portion, which is the shoulder, we consumed it in this life, we're going to consume it, but everything that we share with family and friends and neighbors and the needy, Allah is saving for us in the hereafter. So, realigning and redefining our paradigms and our understanding is very important. So Umar is there sitting and he's grinning and waiting, and Abu Bakr puts his pile, and the Prophet said, what did you leave for your family? Abu Bakr said, تَرَقْتُ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ. I left for them Allah and His Messenger. Bam. I brought everything. He emptied the checking account, so to speak. Everything. His balance now is 0. Worldly balance is 0. But the balance with Allah, that's a different question. Completely different balance. Abu Bakr financed the trip of the Prophet ﷺ, the most critical trip of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is what we're going to focus on tonight, inshallah. We were just a few weeks ago celebrating Eid al-Adha, right? The Hijrah, and the Hujjaj are back, safe and sound, alhamdulillah, may Allah accept from them. And now we are turning the page and entering into a new year, a new Hijri year, the lunar calendar. And Abu Bakr cannot be mentioned without mentioning the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is why I want to focus on the Hijrah. Because these verses are about Abu Bakr and about his contribution and about his sacrifice. And his sacrifice was throughout, including the Hijrah. And the Prophet ﷺ spoke specifically about the sacrifice of Abu Bakr. Specifically, more so than he spoke about anyone else. In a hadith in Al-Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ مِنْ أَمَنِّ النَّاسِ عَلَيَّ فِي صُحْبَتِهِ وَمَالِهِ أَبَا بَكْرٍ. No doubt, I am most indebted to Abu Bakr than I am to anyone else. This is the Prophet ﷺ. I am most indebted to Abu Bakr than I am to anyone else, in both his companionship and his wealth. And if I were to choose a close friend and companion from amongst my followers, I would choose Abu Bakr. But the fraternity and brotherhood of Islam is sufficient. May Allah be pleased with him. So what's the importance of this Hijrah? And we'll circle back to come to Abu Bakr, because the common theme that we will see throughout our talk about Hijrah will be Abu Bakr. It's not just Abu Bakr, but he is a unique personality in the Hijrah, the immigration of the Prophet ﷺ. He was a unique player that almost made it possible. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beginning and end. But Abu Bakr was a key player in the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Hijrah was so important that prior to the Hijrah, and years later, there's still was no true calendar. Muslims really did not have a calendar. The Arabs really had no way of setting dates or defining things. So for example, when was the Prophet ﷺ born? You could ask any child, they will say, Amul Fil, the year of the elephant, right? So they marked things by major events. So that's, the year of the drought, the year of the elephant. Amul Huzn, the year of grief. That was the year that Abu Talib and Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, passed away. The Prophet ﷺ suffered a great deal of grief because those were the two pillars that supported him and stood by him in the face of the torment and the oppression and the persecution from Quraysh. So this was how things were kind of dated, based on major events. A year before the year of the elephant, 2 years after the year of the elephant, etc. But as the community was growing, and as more people were entering into the folds of Islam, and as the boundaries were growing, it became necessary, from the point of view of the companions, to have a formal standard way, just as we say, when were you born? Oh, January 23rd. When did you get married? May 16th. So we can all relate to that. So it became a necessity of life to have a standard way. So the companions, this didn't happen until the time of Abu Bakr, when he became Khalifa. So the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and Abu Bakr became Khalifa and passed away, and now Umar is Khalifa, and they're sitting there saying, so how do we define our calendar? What should be the beginning of our calendar? And they started to debate different possibilities. Some of them said the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of them said, no, when he became a messenger, when he received the message. And many opinions arose. And then someone said, no, the defining moment in our history as a nation was the Hijrah, was the migration of the Prophet ﷺ from Mecca to Medina. Because this was the moment when the truth became evident and falsehood was dealt a major blow. This was the moment that Quraysh feared the most. When the idolaters in Mecca were very fearful. They were fearful because this is the moment when the Prophet ﷺ finally, and the community, that small budding community, finally came out of that proverbial bottleneck. And they could finally breathe. And they could finally speak the truth without having any fear. They could finally express themselves freely. They could finally establish themselves. They had a place where they could establish their faith and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freely. And from there, go out and invite other people to the faith. So that was the moment of true establishment. And how long did it take? 13 years out of the 23-year span. 13 years of suffering, of torture, of torment, of persecution, of ridicule, all of this. And finally, out of the bottleneck. So that's when Umar recognized, no, this is the moment. But one thing we have to recognize, that the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ historically did not occur on the first day of the calendar. So the Hijrah calendar, the Hijri calendar begins. The months, there are 12 months, Muharram, Safar, Rabi'a, Awwal, etc. The year starts with Muharram, which will be starting tomorrow or the day after, I can check. But the Hijrah was not in Muharram. It was in the third month, Rabi'a al-Awwal. But the Arabs already knew, and they had an established system, that the year starts with Muharram. So they chose, Umar and the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, chose that year. The year that the Hijrah occurred would be the beginning of the Islamic calendar. And then everything was in reference to that. So it would be 3 years before the Hijrah, 10 years before the Hijrah, 2 years before the Hijrah, 1 year after the Hijrah, etc. So that became the landmark moment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the experience of the Hijrah. It seems almost very lonely. Almost very, very lonely. What does Allah say? إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ. Doesn't matter if you support him. Allah is telling the believers, doesn't matter if you support him, meaning Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah has already given him victory. This is a man who's fleeing, okay? This is a man who's fleeing. He's fleeing his homeland. He's in a barren desert. He doesn't know who can attack him from right or left. He doesn't know what might happen. Allah is saying, فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. He's already victorious. It's a done deal. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Behold, when the disbelievers kicked him out of his homeland. ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ. There were just two guys, two lonely guys, fleeing their homeland. when they are in the cave, so they're hiding in the cave. These are people who are fearing for their lives. Human beings. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, radiallahu anhu. He reassured his companion, La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana. Have no fear, Allah is with us. So Allah sent down His serenity, peace, tranquility, calmed them down upon the Prophet. Supported him with forces you did not see. Some mushrikeen did see when they came and they saw, the spider web, which with our human minds, where do you find cobwebs and spider webs in your home? In the shed, right? In a corner in the basement that you haven't been to in several weeks or months, right? Areas that you don't frequent, but not an area where two guys just walked into, right? There's no spiders. Why? Because Allah says, "Inna awhana al-buyuti labaytul ankabut." The weakest of homes, the flimsiest, is the house of the web of the spider. It's flimsy. You can blow on it and it's gone, right? But by the will of Allah, immediately covered up the door. So with their human mind, they look and say, "Oh, it can't be here." But these are the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He supported him with forces you did not see, and made the word of the disbelievers lowest. And the word of Allah is supreme, and Allah is almighty, all-wise. So, of course, the story of Hijrah is very detailed. Rather than going through the story, we will delineate some lessons as we relate some of the story. What do we learn from the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ? Number one, and this is very important, the protection of Allah. For those who have been joining us for these lectures, remember a few lectures ago we talked about Ma'iyyatullah. Ma'iyyatullah, right? The all-presence, the omnipresence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing that Allah is with us at all times. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to the Prophet ﷺ? When he was still in Mecca, and Quraysh had reached the end of its ropes, that's it, they're fed up with the Prophet ﷺ. And they gather, the heads of Quraysh. What do we do with this guy? And the Prophet ﷺ tells us that in this meeting, Shaitan came in the form of a man to have discussions with him, to make sure that they reach the good decision. The ultimate decision that will really eliminate the Prophet ﷺ. So Allah tells us, وَإِذْ يَمْكُرُ بِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِيُثْبِتُوكَ أَوْ يَقْتُلُوكَ أَوْ يُخْرِجُوكَ. And remember, O Muhammad ﷺ, when the disbelievers conspired to do what? Capture you, because they said, well, throw him in a hole and shut it down. To kill you or to exile you. And eventually we know that their final plan was kill the Prophet ﷺ. They planned, but Allah also planned. And Allah is the best of planners. So the protection and the guardianship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there. This is number one lesson. That regardless of what happens, regardless of what is going on around us, we see many things, many calamities, many things that can dissuade us and depress us and make us feel that it's the end of the world and there's nothing else that we can do and make us feel hopeless. But Allah is always there. And that is Ma'iyyatullah, the omnipresence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Companionship. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ said, the companionship and the wealth of Abu Bakr. How was the companionship of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq throughout this hijrah? Abu Bakr heard the Prophet ﷺ told the companions, whoever is able to emigrate to Medina, let him do it. So Abu Bakr, just like everyone else, starts to prepare. And the Prophet ﷺ sees him, he says, so the Prophet ﷺ tells the companions, he says, قَدْ أُرِيدُ دَارَ هِجْرَتِكُمْ. I have been shown the land to which you will emigrate. And he describes it to them, which was basically Medina. So Abu Bakr starts to prepare, just like everyone else. So the Prophet ﷺ kind of, in a subliminal message, indirectly, tells him, take it easy. Don't be in a rush. Because I'm hoping that very soon I will be given permission to emigrate. So Abu Bakr, he's a very smart man. He gets the message. The Prophet ﷺ tells him, don't rush to immigrate because I'm hoping that you will be my companion on this trip. I want you to be my buddy on this trip. The Prophet ﷺ. So Abu Bakr spends 4 months. So between this communication, between this discussion that the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr have, and the time when Allah tells the Prophet ﷺ, now is your turn to immigrate, 4 months pass. And throughout these 4 months, Abu Bakr is preparing. He starts to gather the provisions, the 2 camels. He decides it's 2 camels, one for the Prophet and one for me. He starts to feed them, to get them prepared, to get them strong, to get all the provisions that he's going to need for the trip. He's preparing. And his mindset is, I'm immigrating with the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ did not say it to him, and he did not ask the Prophet ﷺ. But this is a very important lesson. When the hearts are connected, when the hearts of the believers are connected, they're on the same wavelength. They don't need to verbalize things. They can read each other's minds. And then the Prophet ﷺ came to Abu Bakr. But he didn't come in a direct way. So it's a long hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. And in the hadith, it says Abu Bakr is sitting, and it's in the middle of the day. It's very hot. Remember the context. You're in the desert, middle of the day, around Dhuhr time. No one's out in the streets. Everyone's home trying to take shade. And then suddenly someone comes to Abu Bakr and says, I think this is the Prophet coming. He was coming, he covered his face, taking all necessary precautions. So Abu Bakr says, if he's coming at this time, there must be something serious. Because he never comes at this time. And sure enough, the Prophet ﷺ walks in, and he looks around, and there are a few people in the house. The Prophet ﷺ says, أخرج من عندك. Let everyone leave. Again, taking all necessary precautions. Abu Bakr says, Ya Rasulullah, these are my family, my children. You can trust them. He says, the Prophet ﷺ says, it's time. What does Abu Bakr say? As-suhbata ya Rasulullah. Is it companionship? Am I going to be your companion? The Prophet said yes. And Abu Bakr just breaks down crying. He breaks down crying. This is the crying out of joy. That he's the chosen one. The Prophet chose him out of, he didn't choose Omar, he didn't choose Hamza, who's his own uncle, he didn't choose Ali, who's his cousin. He chose Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. And throughout the trip, it showed why the Prophet ﷺ chose Abu Bakr. This is a man who loved the Prophet ﷺ more than he loved himself. So the hadith describes where throughout the trip, this is going to be a long trek. This is not a half-hour walk. This is a long trek from Mecca to Medina. Abu Bakr will be sometimes walking ahead of the Prophet ﷺ, trying to make sure that there's no one ahead that can hurt the Prophet ﷺ. And then he would slow down and be behind him, make sure no one's tracking them from behind. He'd be to his right, make sure no one's coming to his left. He's just tracking the road and making sure everything is safe. And then when they finally get to the cave, he tells the Prophet ﷺ, hold on, I'm going to go in, inspect it, make sure everything is good. He finds some holes, he plugs them with parts from his clothes, and then there were a couple of holes he didn't have anything else to plug them with. He plugged them with his feet. And he told the Prophet ﷺ, come in, Ya Rasulullah, everything is safe and clean. The Prophet ﷺ lays to sleep and he gets tired, he puts his head on his legs, and then something stings Abu Bakr in his foot. And Abu Bakr is afraid to move his foot lest he wakes the Prophet ﷺ. But he's in pain, and he cries, and his tears fall on the face of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ wakes. These intricate details just show the kind of relationship these two men had beyond him being the Prophet ﷺ, this being the greatest man after the Prophet ﷺ, just as friends and as companions, and the trust that they had. And these kinds of relationships are rare today. Rare today. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, the lesson here is to choose our companions and our friends very, very wisely. And this is important for all the kids who fled, who were sitting here a few minutes ago. But for those who are sitting with us, and also for us as adults, to help our children in the process of choosing and selecting their friends and companions. The next very important lesson from Hijrah is persistence and perseverance. We said the Prophet ﷺ spent 13 years in Mecca. Right? 13 years in Mecca. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, isbiru, wasabiru, warabitu, wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. Patiently endure, persevere, stand on guard, and be mindful of Allah so you may be successful. So, This path to Allah requires a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, and it pays off at the end. Allah is telling us, it may look like it's a dead end, but it pays off at the end. And it paid off with the Prophet ﷺ. It paid off. So there was rejection, torment, ridicule, torture. The path was not glamorous. There was no glamour in Mecca for the Prophet ﷺ. He got many attractive offers. They tried to dissuade him from the path. They told him, look, if you want to be a king, we'll make you a king. If you want to be the wealthiest, we'll make you the wealthiest. If you want to marry the most beautiful woman, we'll arrange it for you. If you want to be a king on all of Arabia, we'll make you a king. So all of these temptations can face us on the path to Allah. And we have to have the will to push these temptations away and persist and persevere. Something that we can kind of relate to. Numbers, likes, shares, comments, all of these things don't matter. What does Allah say? وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is what Allah told Muhammad ﷺ. Most people will not believe no matter how keen you are. Most people, no matter how keen you are, O Muhammad ﷺ, will not believe. So don't worry about the numbers. The Prophet ﷺ left Mecca. How many people will believe this? Few. But he returned back in the conquest, an army of 10,000. This is the army, not to mention the children and the rest of the families and all of that. The Prophet ﷺ, the perseverance and the persistence, what did he do in those 13 years? He pursued all means available. He pursued all the means available to him. So when Mecca was a dead end, he went to nearby Al-Ta'if. When Al-Ta'if was a dead end, he didn't give up. He would meet all the tribes that are coming during Hajj and introduce Islam to them. So he never gave up. And it took 13 years of rejection before he had a major break with a group of people coming from Medina. And that, as they say, the rest was history. So perseverance and persistence. The next important lesson is sacrifice. You don't get anything sweet, you don't taste any sweetness without any sacrifice. There has to be some sacrifice in life. There has to be some sacrifice. When the Prophet ﷺ was leaving Mecca, and he stood on the outskirts of Mecca, and he's being kicked out of his homeland, he turns around and he looks towards Mecca. What does he say? He says, وَاللَّهِ إِنَّكِ لَخَيْرُ أَرْضِ اللَّهِ وَأَحَبُّ أَرْضِ اللَّهِ إِلَيْهِ وَاللَّهِ لَوْلَا أَنِّي أُخْرِجْتُ مِنْهُ مَا خَرَجْتُ. He says, by Allah, you are the best land of Allah, and you are the most beloved land of Allah to me. And had it not been that your people kicked me out, I would never have left you. This is the sacrifice. The Prophet ﷺ is expressing the emotional anguish that he's experiencing as he is leaving his homeland, being kicked out of his homeland. And there were many, many, many examples of companions that made huge sacrifices in order to make the Hijrah. And Allah revealed about some of these companions a verse where Allah says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ رَءُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. There are those who would dedicate and trade their lives in return for Allah's pleasure. And Allah is ever gracious to His servants. There are different narrations about whom this verse was revealed, but several of the companions were mentioned. And these were companions who tried to leave Mecca, and they were caught on the outskirts. And these were individuals who either came in as servants or as slaves, and then were freed and were able to make some money. And Quraysh come to him and said, where do you think you're going? He said, we're leaving to go to Medina. He said, you came to Mecca poor and subservient and having no money, and now you think you're going to leave with your wealth? What did these guys do? What did these companions do? They told them, look, we don't want our money. We don't want our wealth. We are leaving for Allah and His Messenger. If we were to tell you where our wealth is, where we hid our wealth, would you let us go? He said, sure. They went, they found the wealth, and they let them go. One example was a companion by the name of Suhaym ibn Sinan. And when he arrived to Medina, Allah had revealed this verse of the Prophet ﷺ, and as he welcomed him, he said to him, رَبِحَ الْبَيْعُ أَبَا يَحْيَا رَبِحَ الْبَيْعُ أَبَا يَحْيَا. This was indeed a successful trade. A successful trade. That was a bargain with Allah. to give up all of this wealth that you have accumulated over the years just to be with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be able to worship freely. Sacrifice. Another lesson, the importance of planning well. Right? Allah is protecting us. Allah is guaranteeing the protection. But we have to do our part. And the Prophet ﷺ was the epitome of the planners. He would plan every last detail. So we showed some examples where we said, he came at a time where no one would be out in the street. He covered his face. Right? He took all necessary precautions. He asked Abu Bakr, anyone in the room, let them go out if there was someone who might, convey some news to Quraysh. Abu Bakr spent 4 months preparing, gathering the provisions. But then we also have the example of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet's cousin. What was the role of Ali ibn Abi Talib? The Prophet's cousin. You can stop. I'm sorry? Decoy, right? Or deception, right? When it's time of war, deception. You can summarize. He was a decoy. So Quraysh gathered all these young guys to surround the house of the Prophet ﷺ, and they're waiting, and every time they look, they see someone in the bed, and they're thinking this is the Prophet ﷺ, when indeed it was Ali ibn Abi Talib. But this was the ultimate sacrifice, because there was a risk that they could come in and kill him, thinking that this was the Prophet ﷺ. That was their ultimate goal. And this was a young man. This was a young man who was putting his life at risk for the sake of the message. But it wasn't just the young men and the older men. The women also had a role. Aisha and Asma, the daughters of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, may Allah be pleased with them all. And Aisha narrates the hadith. She says that both of us prepared the food for them, for the Prophet ﷺ and for Abu Bakr, as they were heading out to the trip. And we made sure that they had all the provisions that they needed. And we took it out to them while they were out in the cave. His son, Abdullah ibn Abu Bakr, who was even younger, played the role of intelligence gathering. He played the role of intelligence gathering. So during the day, during the night, he would be with the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. And then during the day, so he would go back before Fajr to Mecca, spend the day there, go to different gatherings, listen to what people are saying, see what the latest news was, any updates about their search for the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. And then, just after sunset, he would head back to the cave and give them updates as to what the latest is going on in the search for the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr's servant, whose name was Amr ibn Fuhayra, his role was more deception. So he was a shepherd, and he would tend his flock in the area, and he would have his sheep walk on the path that Abu Bakr and Asma and Aisha would walk on to wipe away any of their footsteps. So everyone was involved, everyone had a role, and there was active planning and involvement there, taking active steps. The Prophet ﷺ even utilized a non-Muslim who was trustworthy. And his name was Abdullah ibn Uwaymit, who was a very talented guide who helped the Prophet ﷺ on his trip, because the Prophet ﷺ was supposed to go from Mecca to Medina, he's supposed to go north, but they decided to go south and take a different route. So, planning and doing your best, which takes us to the next lesson. We plan, we do our best, but we put our trust ultimately in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did Allah tell the Prophet ﷺ? إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Indeed, the one who has ordained the Qur'an for you will ultimately bring you back home to Mecca. So he was promised. The Prophet ﷺ was promised. This was the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ was at peace, trusting in the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he's going to come back to Mecca. So, when they were hiding in the cave, and they're sitting there, and the spider had already, laid its web, and some of Quraysh actually reached the cave, and they were standing at the door, at the entrance of the cave. Abu Bakr said to the Prophet ﷺ, لو أن أحدهم نظر تحت قدميه لأبصاره. If one of them were just to kind of peek down and look between his feet, he would see us. Prophet said, "La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana." Don't worry, Allah is with us. In essence, what the Prophet ﷺ was telling Abu Bakr is, and this is the key lesson here, we've done our part. We planned, we studied everything about this route, we've done what we could, we took all necessary measures, we've been preparing for 4 months, we took all provisions we can take, we took the longer route, we had a guide with us, we had someone to erase our footsteps, we're gathering intelligence, we are hiding, we did everything in our human capacity. Now it is in Allah's hands. And the more amazing thing here is that despite the fact that they took a non-traditional route, the longer route, because common sense says they would head north, but they went south. In spite of that, some of Quraysh reached them. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doubly reinforcing in our minds, never put trust in your skills and your abilities. Never put trust in your skills and abilities. Don't get to the point of saying, "Oh, I've done everything. I'm great. I'm the smartest one." We keep coming back to this lesson, if you notice. Never let your ego convince you that you have done everything, that you don't need to depend and rely and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because even Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam needed to put his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to remember in Allah ma'ana. Because he took all these measures, all these extraordinary measures, and Quraysh still reached him. And they were at the entrance of the cave, which is mind-boggling, right? Given all the measures that he took. But this is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us that even the Prophet cannot rely on himself, and requires and needs Allah to be on his side. So, Inna Allah ma dhannuka bithnayni Allahu thalithuhuma. What do you think? There are 2 of us, but Allah is number 3. He's number 1, of course, but it means He's with us. We're not alone. If you think it's just us, remember, Allah is there. Even more amazing, or equally amazing, is the story of the incident of Suraqa. Suraqa was this Bedouin guy, poor guy. He just has, a horse and maybe a tent and an arrow and some spears, and that's it. That's all he owns from this world. And he hears that Mecca had put out a bounty of 100 camels. Whoever brings Muhammad and Abu Bakr dead or alive. You know how in the Wild West they say dead or alive? That was it. Bring them back, dead or alive. And Suraqa's, sitting out there saying, I have no hope. And while he's sitting there, some guy comes rushing and says, I saw 2 guys, they seem to be rushing in such and such area. I think it might be Muhammad and Abu Bakr. And Suraqa says, man, this is my ticket to wealth. 100 camels. A camel back then, this was the luxury mode of transportation. So to say 100 camels, you've got your own dealership right there. Okay? Someone just gave you a dealership and you're set for life. That's basically what it was. So this guy who barely probably walks barefoot, has a horse, and like I said, nothing in this life, it's like, man, I'm going to get 100 camels. So he tells the guy, no. Yeah, I saw them too. It's not Muhammad and Abu Bakr. And in the back of his mind, he's like, cha-ching, it's me. So he waits until everyone kind of forgets about it. He takes his horse straight towards where this guy told him about the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. And then as he's getting closer and closer, the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr start to hear. The Prophet ﷺ he's on his way. Abu Bakr, of course, he's guarding the Prophet ﷺ. He's going ahead and behind and right and left, as we said. So he looks behind him and he says, Ya Rasulullah, we're about to be overtaken. And the Prophet ﷺ says, don't worry. La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana. Again, don't worry, Allah is with us. And then the story that most of us know, this is a very capable horseman, and suddenly his horse sinks in the sand, and the guy is, thrown overboard, and he thinks his horse is going crazy. He gets on the horse again, tries it again, overthrown again, tries it a 3rd time, and then he's convinced. He says, okay, I'm not going to catch these guys. So he calls upon him and says, okay, I give up. Just let me talk to you. So the Prophet ﷺ stops and turns around and Surah approaches. Now, think of the mindset. Again, this is very important. Human nature. This is a man and his companion fleeing for their lives. They're in the middle of the desert. No one's around to protect them. This is a guy who has a sword with him. He's ready to bring them. The Prophet ﷺ didn't hear about the bounty, but he's pretty sure that this guy is not coming to ask him, a question about Allah. Okay, this guy is coming to bring him back, dead or alive. And yet he pauses to talk to him. Okay? And Surah asks him, and he says, "Look, I'm not going to harm you. I'm not going to tell anyone about you, but give me something in return." He's a worldly man. He wants something in return. Now think about the mentality. If you were in that case, if one of us were in that situation, what would you do? You maybe beat up the guy or something. You don't trust him, right? Try and tie him up and tell him, "I'm sorry, I don't trust you." Start running real fast. Human nature. What does the Prophet ﷺ say? First, after getting a guarantee from him that he's not going to tell anyone about where they are and where they're headed, the Prophet ﷺ tells him, "You're guaranteed to wear the bracelets of the Emperor of Persia." Okay? So you just think about it. You're running for your life. You have no idea if someone's going to catch you. You're wanted, dead or alive. And you are putting your trust in Allah, who has promised you the conquest of Persia and the Roman Empire. And you're promising this poor, meagerly Bedouin who doesn't know what he's going to eat that day or where he's going to sleep, who sleeps in a smelly tent. That's the way it was. And he's going to wear the golden bracelets of the most powerful man in the world. And so I was like, yeah, I need some documentation. Huh? Kisra, yeah. Kisra. He says, I need something on paper. Because, I need something to prove that. So, Abu Bakr gives him something, written, and he goes on his way. Of course, he keeps his end of the bargain. The Prophet ﷺ dies years later. Abu Bakr becomes Khalifa and dies a couple years after that. Umar radiallahu anhu becomes Khalifa. And lo and behold, the empires collapse. And all of these things are brought in. And Suraqa has accepted Islam. And all of these jewels are brought in. And Suraqa was like, wait a second, I have this document that says I'm going to wear these bracelets. And he comes to Umar and he says, where are my bracelets? He says, what are you talking about? He says, these bracelets are mine. He says, do you have any witnesses? He says, I have this letter from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, the attitude is everything. Trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're fleeing for your life, but your mind is in a different world. The heart is with Allah. It's not in, am I going to make it? Do I have enough gas to get to the next rest area? Is this lunch going to last me until I find, No. This is with Allah and with the victory for this faith. This is where the Prophet ﷺ was and how he was connected. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The role of family. This is very significant, and we kind of touched upon this. Abu Bakr wasn't just involved with the Prophet ﷺ and that's it. Asma was his daughter. Aisha was his daughter. Abdullah was his son. We mentioned all their roles. Amr ibn Fuhayra, the shepherd, was his servant. All of these people. So he brought every single member of his family and everyone had a role to play. So how we utilize and involve our families in our community activities. It's not a one-man show. I don't have a role in the community and then I go home and it's in isolation from the family. As the Prophet ﷺ said, every one of you is a guardian or a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. The next important lesson, faith supersedes all other ties. Faith, the connection of faith supersedes all other ties. So the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, they left Mecca to Medina, a foreign land. They left their homes, they left their wealth, they left their properties for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Ansar, the supporters in Medina who welcomed them in, They had no kinship with them. They had no family ties with them. They had no blood relationships with them. But they welcomed them with open hearts and love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Qur'an when He says, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. As for those who settled in the city and embraced the faith before the arrival of the immigrants, they love whoever immigrates to them, never having a desire in their heart for whatever is given to the immigrants, and they give preference to them over themselves, even though they may be in need. So what connected them as a community, when the Prophet ﷺ did this mu'akha between al-Muhajirin and al-Ansar, that connection, that brotherly relationship, it was the connection of faith, nothing else. Not race, not nationality, not language, not ethnicity. It was the connection and the brotherhood of faith. And the final lesson was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was teaching us that eventually the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will dominate. It will dominate. Sura Al-Layl, إِنَّا لَنَنْصُرُ رُسُلَنَا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْأَشْهَادُ. We certainly support our messengers and the believers in this world and in the hereafter. So, what's the essence of Hijrah? I mean, we talked about the story and the lessons, but what is really the essence when we talk about the concept of Hijrah? Every year we hear lectures about the Hijrah and the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ and what happened and these lessons. But when we really want to talk and understand about the Hijrah and how it applies to us today, there are several factors. Number one, the heart and the intention. Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith about the intention, he says, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Whoever's hijrah, whoever's migration, whoever's activity is for Allah and His Messenger, then he will be rewarded accordingly. It will be for Allah and His Messenger. وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. And whoever's migration, whoever's action, whoever's intention is for something worldly, or running after a marriage, or whatever it may be, then he will be rewarded accordingly. That's what his hijrah will be for. To further emphasize this, Allah says what in the Quran? He says, وَالرِّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ. So the concept of hijrah is to shun something, to turn our back against something. So when the Prophet ﷺ and the companions were making hijrah, they were turning their backs against the shirk and the idolatry in Mecca and opening up themselves to the opportunity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freely. It is also the hijrah of character and morality. What does the Prophet ﷺ say? Al-Muslim, man salima al-muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi, wal-muhajir man hajara ma naha Allahu anhu. So a true Muslim is the one who other Muslims are safe from his tongue and his hand. So there's no slander. He's not attacking their property, not taking what doesn't belong to him or her. And a true muhajir, the immigrant, isn't just one who crosses the border legally or illegally. That's not the essence of immigration in Islam. No, is the one who leaves behind what Allah has prohibited. That's the essence. And that's how we circle back to the initial verse that we started with. وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. That's where the taqwa comes in. So, to have that taqwa, I have to have that hijrah. I have to push back against anything and shun anything and everything that Allah has prohibited. That's the essence of hijrah. That's the most important lesson from hijrah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to push back against anything and everything that He has prohibited. To rush towards anything and everything that He has commanded. And that's what made Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu deserving of the label Al-Atqa, the most righteous. Because he was always the first to rush towards righteousness. He was always the first to sacrifice. He was always the first to give from his wealth. He was always the first standing next to the Prophet ﷺ, and thus he was deserving of the companionship of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So, we conclude with some action items. What are some action items that we can take from the story of the Hijrah and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu? Number one, we have to read and learn. There's so much more for us to read and learn from the life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So that's the first thing. Yourself, your children, your family. Which takes us to the next important lesson. Be active and engaged, not alone, but with your family. Just like Abu Bakr, he wasn't just active and engaged alone. He brought in his children. He brought in even his servant. Everyone had a role to play in the Hijrah. Number three, build solid core relationships that are based on faith. It doesn't mean we don't have friendships and acquaintances and all of that with everyone around us, and we deal with everyone kindly. But our core, solid friendships that we surround ourselves with, that keep us tight-knit as believers, have to be built on faith. Because those are the ones that are going to protect us. And those are the ones that are going to help us reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala safely. Next, we plan diligently for everything. And we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are in tandem. It's not one or the other. We talked before about tawakkul and tawakkul. Putting our trust in Allah versus being lazy bums, to put it plainly. Next, choosing our companions and our friends wisely. Very important. Now the youth, many of the youth are back. Youth, kids, you're listening? Choosing our friends and companions wisely. As hadith, المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. Every one of you is on the way of his or her friends. So let everyone see whom he or she befriends. So usually, when you have a box of apples, it's the rotten apples that affects the other apples. The good apples don't make the rotten apple good. It's always the other way around. So you don't want any rotten apples around you. Make sacrifice an integral part of your life and your character. So find something in your life, even if it's halal, even if it's mubah, and train yourself to go without it for a little while. Because we live a life of luxury. If we compare it with the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, no matter how much we are suffering, there is still an element of great luxury if we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So it doesn't hurt every now and then to try and sacrifice some of the luxury that we have, even if for a short period of time. Just like Ramadan comes in, we stay away from food and drink and all of that, and we can deal with it. Find something that you're addicted to, whatever it is, and give it up for a little while for Allah. And you'll taste the beauty of that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Persist and persevere on the path of Allah, regardless of the challenges. And finally, search for areas of deficiency in your life and make it the goal of your life to shun them, to push them back, because that is the essence of Hijrah. That is the essence of migration from sins and migration towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all to that which is best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our hearts and intentions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us from what we have learned. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all amongst the righteous. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all to be amongst those whom He described as the most righteous. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فستذكرون ما أقول لكم وأتوب إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد.